finally, Senator Warnock on housing.
Project 2025 is bad news for America. And virtually no one is left unscathed. As my colleagues have already demonstrated, from veterans to preschoolers to women, no one is left unscathed by this. There's a reason why Donald Trump is running from Project 2025. He knows it's bad news. The fact that they're running away from it tells you everything you need to know. Who in the world wants to get rid of Head Start? I know that Senator Stabenow talked about education, but Head Start works. I know it because I've seen it in the communities where I've served for decades as a pastor, and I know it because I'm a Head Start alum. I know the difference that this program makes for poor children and their access to education, the ways in which it stirs that early intellectual curiosity and imagination and puts you on a path towards a prosperous and productive life. Who wants to come after the $35 cap on insulin? So on a whole range of issues, this is bad news. But in every corner of Georgia, one of the top issues that I hear about is the housing affordability and availability crisis. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition in Georgia, there's an estimated statewide shortage of 200,000 rental homes that are affordable and available for low-income renters, shortage of 200,000. And industry research has found that from 2023 to 2024, Georgia lost 7.5% of its housing inventory and one of the biggest decreases in the nation. I sit on the Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, and this crisis is something that we've been working on for quite some time. We've tried to address this crisis, to lower housing costs on working people, to help first-time American buyers purchase a home of their own, and strengthen transparency in our rental and housing markets to help regular people put a roof over their heads. Housing is dignity. Housing is security. Housing is safety. So let's be clear. Project 2025, which was written by former President Trump's friends and allies, would not just kill these efforts to make it easier for Americans to obtain their piece of the American dream through home ownership or to find safe, affordable housing. Washington Republicans' Project 2025 would increase housing costs on working families and undermine the work necessary to expand access to affordable rental, and home ownership opportunities across the country. Let me list just a few specific examples. Project 2025 calls for privatizing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae and limiting Americans' access to federal mortgage programs. Who does that serve? This would spike mortgage prices and undermine access to the fixed rate 30-year mortgage so many Americans have used to afford their homes and build generational wealth. These moves would make it more expensive and much harder for Americans to purchase and to own their own home. Project 2025 would prohibit the federal housing investments we're fighting for right now that would expand the housing supply and thereby lowering housing costs. Everyone who's looked at this knows that one of the things we've got to do is address supply. Project 2025 would prevent the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, from protecting homeowners from housing discrimination, including discrimination in property appraisals. And I know that I don't have to remind this group of journalists that have been reporting on this issue of the ways in which in recent years black homeowners and consumers of color are economically disadvantaged by bigoted practices in our housing markets in general and the appraisal system in particular. Project 2025 would eliminate the National Flood Insurance Program and other initiatives and protections that help lower utility costs and protect houses from extreme weather events, just as we're seeing more of these natural disasters putting people's homes in jeopardy. As a coastal Georgia native, I can tell you that this would put countless homes down in Savannah, Georgia, and other coastal areas at risk, and it would increase costs for families who have to repair and rebuild after extreme weather events, which we are seeing more and more. This is all just the tip of the spear. But the bottom line is this: we're trying to make housing more affordable for more Americans and make it easier for Americans to find or purchase a home, while Project 2025 would raise your housing costs. Project 2025 is bad news for housing, bad news for veterans, bad news for Head Start, bad news for seniors who are trying to afford prescription drugs. Almost no one is left unscathed. We need a president who will center the people.
Thank you. Thank my colleagues for those great